Hey guys, welcome to the shop. So today's video is finally going to be on the milling machine. So this is number 4, the official number 4 video. It's really 4.5 on the Dum Dum's Guide to Machining. This particular machine, this is a very early Bridgeport J-head. This is one of the round ram, not the dovetail ram models. This still has the M-head style turret and the nut pockets. Now there's a transitional machine that came out between these that has the later dovetail ram, but it still uses the M-head style nut pockets. I'm not entirely sure why they changed. I think the real reason for change is at that time there was starting to be more demand for a riser, and from what I understand it's a lot easier to swap turrets on the later machine if you're putting a riser on. Now we don't have a riser. A riser would just sit between here and the turret and give you an extra 4 to 8 inches. Which is nice. I'm a taller guy. I'm 6'4", so this machine height, I have it raised up off the ground about 6 inches, so it's more comfortable for me to work at. It's a good height. Put it right on the floor if you're a normal sized person, or shorter than average. I mean, I saw one really short guy. He dug a hole and put the machine in, so it was a real comfortable height for him. But, you know, they're sweet machines. The Bridgeport really made their name on this style, this early step pulling machine, and they're good. The heads are solid. They don't have a lot of issues. You know, they're reasonably precise for what they are. You know, for the average shop, there's a pretty good substitute for a jig borer, and they can work as a drill press, but they're not as fast as a drill press. You know, in my videos, if I have to do repetitive operations and I got to say, you know, counter bore 6 holes, I'm going over to the drill press. If I only got to do one, it's not worth walking over there. But the thing about this is you can start to use milling cutters, you can use slitting saws, you can use face mills, you can use a boring head in this. You know, all the machines are missing these, and let's just take it out of power down feed while we're talking about it. There's a fine feed hand wheel here. So you can set this quill stop stacked with gauge blocks here, and you can really bore to a precise depth on these, which, in my opinion, I think that was the selling point for these early on in toolmaker shops. Because there were other vertical milling machines before the J-head Bridgeport came out, but the J-head Bridgeport sold so well, people almost forget about it. You know, they had Cincinnati, Kearney and Trecker, Brown and Sharp, Wells Index. There were a bunch of different American companies making competitors, but the Bridgeport is the one people remember. And, you know, it's just because they're a good machine, they had good dealer support, and you can do good work on them. And I'm about to show you one of the real selling points on these is the head moves. So I already loosened all 4 bolts off camera, but the head moves. You can move it in and out, which frankly, I don't know if I'm motivated enough to demonstrate on camera, because that's a lot of work, but you can also tilt the head. You know, I don't see many people on YouTube, at least, showing videos of you can do that on your machine. So the huge advantage to this is I can now work on parts that aren't on the table. You have a T-slot here, so I'll set this guy back to roughly vertical. I don't know if I have a video on tramming the mill up. At least I don't at the time of recording. I might have one out at the time of posting. But if I push the turret out, which you can do, or push the ram out of the turret, I can potentially have the whole quill hanging off in space over here, which may or may not be relevant to something you're doing, especially on big repair work at like a sawmill or a heavy duty diesel shop. Yeah, this is pretty much, it is a fight to get the ram to extend on these. You kind of just got to pull and wiggle. On the later machines, they got to crank. Now it is coming, which is nice. You know, it's easier with the second person because they can push and you can pull. Well, you get the idea. It's just you fight it in and out. I like to keep this pretty loose when you do that, and I think that actually might be what's holding us up. Is what happens is as you go out, the turret starts to hang in the front, or starts to hang, so you kind of got to pull up and pull out at the same time, like that. And I always forget to, but you see all of a sudden now, we've got an extra 6 inches of breech, basically. Ugh. All right, that's as much as I'm motivated to do for a YouTube video. It's heavy. This whole turret assembly is a couple hundred pounds. Now I'm just going to lock this down so nothing exciting happens on camera. You know, we'll have to trim it, which I think will be a supplemental video. But I just wanted to give you an idea, guys, of why a milling machine, why a Bridgeport. You know, the turret style mill, I think, really came into its own with the J-heads, because the earlier machines than this from other manufacturers, they didn't have a turret. They were just a fixed vertical mill, and they stayed where they stayed. Now, I put Marvel Mystery Oil on this because the ram rusts up inside the turret, even in a pretty dry shop like this. So when it is exposed, I put the Marvel Mystery Oil on there, let it soak into the rust, and I'll come back with like some Scotch-Brite, you know, probably this afternoon or tomorrow, and clean it up. But it's just, think about it. We just basically extended our work envelope, and one of the claims to fame is if it would fit on the table, you could put the quill on it, or you could put the spindle on right on top of it. And you can't do that with every milling machine. The Wells Index Model 40, I think, which was the Wells Index competitor to this machine that was coming out at really about the same time, couldn't do this. That was a pretty fixed vertical mill. Now, mind you, also very good machine. There are a lot of very good knee mills. The Bridgeports just wound up being dominant. And there is a reason. They're a fine machine. They're great quality. I love mine. They're a pleasant machine to use. The heads are fairly quiet. They're easy to set up. They're just a very accessible machine. Now also, guys, again, easy to set up. Easy to set up for a milling machine. You're not going to walk up to this and make 1,007-inch parts. You know, unless you're frankly a lot smarter than I am and did a lot more reading first. But for a milling machine, they're accessible. They're simple. You know, you've only got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, arguably like 11 controls on the head. When you get started with some of the really high-end super industrial machines, you'll have like knobs and levers, and you feel like you need a doctorate to just check it out. And you know, there are a couple of nods to modern use. I do have a digital readout on this, which may or may not be visible in frame. That's just basically looks like a calculator. And I have a variable frequency drive to provide my 3-phase power, because this is a 3-phase motor. I can do a whole explanation on VFDs and wiring if someone's interested, but I think that's beyond the scope of this video. It's just, unless I stand here for 4 hours, I don't think we can cover all of the potential uses for this that I'm aware of. And there's a million potential uses that I'm not aware of. So, thanks for watching, guys. I really hope this sparks your interest and gets someone else excited in machining and trying to keep these machines alive. Unfortunately, a lot of these guys have gone to the big scrapyard in the sky. You know, for better or worse, guys. But you know, nothing lives forever, even an old Bridgeport. And I have a video out that should be live before this on story time of how this machine showed up in my shop. And it kind of starts to talk about how I got started in machining. So thanks for watching, guys. I really enjoy all of your support, and it's always a pleasure getting to share the shop with you.